It's Fired Up Friday, and welcome to the Bad Influence Podcast with yours truly, Jordan Banderas. Listen to what I must tell you today, because this can reframe the way you see your life. The people who treat their life like something happening to them will always lose to the people who treat it like something they're playing to win. Mhm. And here's the thing, probably you know the feeling. Sunday night, the week is about to start again, and you're not excited, not dreading it exactly, just flat. Like you're about to go to something instead of go after something. Like the week is a list of things to survive instead of a list of moves to make. You tell yourself this is just adulting, just what it feels like to be responsible, just what life looks like once the excitement wears off. That's not what this is. It is not. This is what life looks like when you stop playing it. When you stop setting levels, stop tracking wins, stop treating your own existence like something worth competing in, and started just getting through it instead. hmm You know this happens. Think about the last time you actually got something you've been chasing. A goal, a milestone, the thing you told yourself will feel like winning. And you got it. Yes, you got it. And it didn't feel the way you thought it would. There was a flash of something, relief maybe, or pride, and then almost immediately a strange kind of empty. Like you checked a box and the box was hollow the whole time. That hollow feeling after you got exactly what you thought you wanted, you felt that more than once. Yes, you have. And every time you told yourself the exact same thing. Maybe that wasn't the right goal. Maybe I needed a bigger one next time. So you pick a bigger one and got it again and felt the same hollow thing again. Yes, you did, huh? So be honest right now. How many times has that happened? Yeah, how many times? Because here's what that pattern is actually telling you. And it has nothing to do with picking the wrong goals. No, it has nothing to do with this. You've been playing a game with no scoreboard, chasing wins you never actually tracked, hitting levels you never actually set on purpose, achieving things without ever deciding ahead of time what achieving them was supposed to mean. That's why the whole feeling keeps showing up. Not because the goals are wrong, Mm-mm. Because you've been playing without rules. And you can't feel like you're winning a game you never actually built. That's right. You have to build that game. And today, we build it. You were not born treating your life like something to survive instead of something to play. Somebody taught you that. Yes, they did. Not one person, a whole culture repeating the same lesson in different rooms. Think about what you were actually taught success looks like. Not in words, in what got rewarded. The grades, the job title, the house, the version of arriving that everyone around you agreed counted as winning. Hmm. And you were taught something specific about what happens once you get those things. You stop. Not literally stop trying. No, stop playing. The culture sold you a finish line. Get the degree, get the job, get the relationship, get the title, and then you've made it. Then the game is over and you just live inside the win. Except nobody ever told you what living inside a win actually feels like. Because nobody who sold you the finish line had actually crossed it and found anything waiting there. They just kept selling the next finish line. That's exactly what people do nowadays. So you ran toward it, got there, found it strangely quiet, and instead of questioning the structure, you assumed the problem was the size of the goal. That's the culture's trick. It never tells you the finish line was always fake. It just tells you to pick a bigger one and try again. Think about how thorough that training was. Oh, because it was thorough. A school taught you to chase the grade, not the actual mastery underneath it. Once you had the grade, the subject was over, done. No reason to keep engaging with it. Work taught you to chase the promotion, not the actual craft underneath it. Once you had the title, the growth stopped being the point. The title was the point. Even rest got turned into a finish line. You'll relax once you've earned it, once you've done enough, as if the relaxation was a reward at the end of a level instead of something built into how you're supposed to live the whole time. Every single one of those lessons taught you the same exact thing. Life is a series of finish lines, not a series of moves. And once you cross one, you're supposed to feel done. Mhm. So when you don't feel done, when you cross the line and feel hollow instead, you assume something's wrong with you, not with the structure you were handed. Mhm. You know this is true, but they make you think there was actually something wrong with you. Here's what the culture never told you, because the culture doesn't actually know this either. Games don't work that way. A real game has levels, not one single finish line. You don't play a game to be done with it. You play it because each level is its own thing to win. And winning one unlocks the next one. And the fun was never about the ending, it was about playing. Nobody handed you that version. I know nobody handed that to me. You got handed the finish line version instead. Get the thing, arrive, stop. And every time you arrive and didn't stop feeling restless, didn't stop wanting more, didn't stop needing the next thing, you read that as a flaw in you. Greedy, never satisfied, can't just be happy with what you have. That's not what was happening. What was happening is you're actually built to play. The culture just handed you a structure that only had room for arriving, not for playing, and then blame you for still wanting to move once you got there. Think about every time you achieved something and immediately started looking for the next thing. Oh, I know I've done this so many times before. You probably felt guilty about that, like wanting more proof you were ungrateful or broken or incapable of contentment. You're not any of those things. No, you're not. You're a person who was handed a fake finish line, crossed it, found nothing waiting, and your own instinct to keep playing kicked back in, because that instinct was never actually wrong. It was just operating without a structure that knew how to use it. This is how life has been for a while for a lot of you. Even for me, it was like this for a while. And here's the part that matters most. Once the finish line thinking gets installed, it doesn't just affect big goals, it runs the small stuff too. You stop tracking daily wins because daily things don't feel like real finish lines. You stop noticing progress because progress isn't an arrival, It's a direction. And you were never taught to value direction, only destinations. So most of your actual life, the parts that are not big achievements, which is most of it, it starts to feel like nothing. Not winning, not losing, just time passing while you wait for the next finish line to chase. That's not how you're supposed to be living. That's how you're living because of a structure you absorbed before you ever got to choose one for yourself. hmm It is true. Think about that. You didn't pick this, and I want to make this clear. Nobody sits a kid down and says, here's the finish line version of life, and it's going to leave you hollow every single time you cross the one. They just leave it in front of you and you copy it because that's what kids do with the only model they're given. So here's what you're actually accountable for, not the structure. You didn't build that. Let me make that clear. What you what you what you need to understand is that what you do with it now that you can see it clearly. That's what you need to be accountable for. Because the whole of feeling isn't telling you to stop chasing things. It's telling you that chasing has never had a scoreboard. And it's time to finally build one. Let's talk about what that whole of feeling actually does in your body. Not the idea of it, the real thing, happening exactly when you'd expect it to feel good. You know the moment. Yes, you do. You get the thing, the offer, the result, the milestone you've been building toward. And for a second, there's a spike, something real, excitement, relief, maybe even joy. And then, fast, almost immediately, something drops out from underneath it. That's the whole of feeling after you got exactly what you thought you wanted. Feel where it actually sits, not your head, your chest, right in the center, like something deflating. The spike comes, and instead of building into something solid, it just empties out. And you're left standing there, holding the thing you wanted, feeling almost nothing. Think about how fast that turnaround actually happens because it happens pretty fast. Sometimes in minutes, sometimes it happens before you've even told anyone the good news. Mhm. You're already scanning past it. Yes, you are. Already thinking about what's next. Already feeling the specific emptiness of an achievement that didn't fill the space it was supposed to fill. That's not ingratitude. That's a body that was promised a finish line and discovered there wasn't one. Mhm. Think about what it costs to live through that cycle over and over and over. Spike, then empty, spike, then empty. Every single time you cross something off, your body braces for the satisfaction. And every single time, the satisfaction doesn't actually arrive the way it's supposed to. Mm-mm. So, your nervous system starts doing something really dangerous. It stops trusting the spike. It starts treating the excitement of working towards something as something to be careful about because the payoff keeps not delivering what the build-up promise. That's why goals stop feeling exciting after a while. Not because you've lost ambition or interest, because your body learned that the finish lines don't actually pay out. And it started protecting you from the disappointing by caring less in advance. Mhm. How many of you have done that? Think about your energy right now, today, toward whatever you're currently working on? Is it the energy of someone who believes the win is going to actually feel like something? Hmm, great question. Or is it the energy of someone who's already half bracing for the whole feeling that's going to show up the moment they get there? Another good question, huh? That's that bracing has a physical cause. It shows up as flatness, as going through the motions on something you used to actually want, as doing the work without the charge that used to come with doing it. And here's the thing, you're not lazy. No, you're not lazy. You're a body that's you're a body that's been promised satisfaction enough times without it actually arriving, that it started rationing its own excitement to protect itself. Think about what happens in the space right after you cross a finish line now. Not in the public moment, the private one, alone, after the congratulations are done, when it's just you and the thing you got. There's a specific kind of quiet there, huh? Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. The quiet of a body that did everything it was supposed to do and is still waiting for the feeling everyone promised will show up once it did. That quiet has a weight to it. It sits in the chest, the same place the spike sat. Except instead of energy, there's just absence. And the dangerous part is what you do with that absence. Most people feel it by immediately reaching for the next finish line. Not because they actually want the next thing yet, because the emptiness is uncomfortable and chasing something new is easier than sitting in the quiet long enough to ask why the last thing didn't deliver. So the cycle just keeps running and running and running. Chase, arrive, empty, chase again. Never once stopping to ask if the structure itself is the problem. Your body has been trying to tell you something this whole time. Well, yes, it has. Not to stop things, not to stop wanting things. You're built to want things. That instinct was never wrong. It's been trying to tell you the wanting needs somewhere real to land. A scoreboard, a level, a way of tracking the win that actually counts it as a win instead of just another finish line that turns out to be empty. The whole of feeling isn't a malfunction. It's the most honest signal you have that the game you've been playing was never actually built to be won. Mhm. Think about that. Let's hold the mirror up, all the way up. Because this is where we look at what chasing finish lines without a scoreboard has actually cost you. Not the discomfort of it, the real loss underneath it. It starts with the thing you keep saying you want. Yes, just start with that one thing. To actually feel like you're winning, to feel proud of what you built instead of just moving past it the second you get there. Count the wins you've actually had over the last few years. Real ones. That's what I'm talking about, the real ones. Things you set out to do and did. How many of them do you actually remember feeling good about for longer than a day or two? Most people doing this honestly come up with almost nothing. Not because nothing good happened. No, that's not the case. It's because nothing good got tracked. Nothing good got marked as a win on purpose. It just happened, got absorbed, and got replaced by the next thing to chase. That's the actual cause, not failure, erasure. You've you've been winning, probably more than you give yourself credit for. And you've built a system so good at not registering it that the wins disappear the moment they happen. Mhm. Look at the shadow underneath this. Yes, let's look at that. The version of you that keeps chasing finish lines isn't actually trying to win. It's trying to avoid sitting still long enough to ask whether winning was ever actually the point of how you've been doing this. Every time you cross something off and immediately reach for the next thing, you're not being ambitious. No, that's not ambition. You're running from the hole of feeling instead of asking it what it's pointing at. That's the shadow. I know. Not ambition itself. The refusal to ever let an achievement actually register as one. And a lot of you have been doing this. I've seen it. I've done it myself. Look at what this has done to the people around you. The ones who try to celebrate you. They show up. They say congratulations. They want to mark the moment. And you're already somewhere else. Oh, yes, you are. How many of you have done this? Because once this happens, you're already minimizing it, already talking about the next thing, already making it clear without meaning to that this win wasn't actually enough to stay present for. They felt that. Yes, they have. Probably more than once. The specific discomfort of trying to celebrate someone who can't actually receive it. And some of them have stopped trying as hard. Not because they stopped caring, because they do care. The reason why they stop is because celebrating you, it started to feel like throwing a party nobody's actually attending. And who wants to do that, right? Look at what you've actually become because of this pattern. Someone who's good at achieving and terrible at winning. Those are not the same thing. And you spend years being praised for the first while quietly starving for the second. People call you driven, impressive, someone who just keeps going. And underneath all of that is someone who has never once let themselves actually finish a win. Fully feel it. Fully feel it. Track it. Let it count before moving on to the next finish line that's also going to turn out hollow. Think about the actual years this has cost you. Not in achievements. You have plenty of those. In satisfaction, in the specific, solid feeling of having actually won something and knowing it. Every accomplishment that got swallowed by the next chase instead of registered as a win is a piece of that satisfaction you'll never get back. You'll never feel it retroactively. The moment to feel it was right after you got it. And you spend that moment already looking for what was next instead. Yes, you have, huh? Here's what is actually costing you to keep proving you can always do more. Every time you do, the pattern gets reinforced, is strengthened, trusted a little more by the part of you that built it. And the part of you that actually wants to feel like a winner, not just be productive, not just achieve, but actually feel like you're winning, gets pushed down a little further each time. It's still there. It's still wanting exactly what you keep chasing and never actually receiving. It's still waiting for you to build a structure that will finally let it land. Look at where this goes if nothing changes. Another year of chasing without tracking. Another year of spikes that empty out almost as fast as they arrive. Another year of being objectively more accomplished and subjectively no closer to feeling like any of it actually counted. And honestly, who wants a life like that? Because I want you to understand this. That's not a motivation problem. That's a structure problem. Running completely unexamined, producing exactly the result it was always going to produce. Mhm. Think about the thing you're currently chasing right now, the next finish line you've already got in mind. Picture yourself crossing it. Be honest about what you're picturing happening right after. Oh, yeah, be honest. If you're picturing the spike and then immediately picturing yourself already moving to the next thing, that's the pattern. Live life, deciding your future before it's even happened. Unless something changes. Unless you finally build the thing that's been missing this whole time. The mirror is showing you exactly how many wins you have already disappeared and exactly why it's cost you one uncounted win at a time. And that's why I want to talk about this on this episode. Mhm. So let's build a scoreboard, not chase the next finish line, not pick a bigger goal and hope this time it lands different. Build the actual structure that's been missing. So here's the reframe that changes everything. Your life was never supposed to be a series of finish lines. It was supposed to be a game with levels, with wins you actually track, with a scoreboard that tells you in real time that what you're doing is working. Nobody built that for you. Mm-mm. So you're going to build it yourself. Oh, yes, you are. Let's talk about what that actually looks like. Not abstractly, specifically. A real game has three things a finish line life never had. Levels, a way to track wins, and a reason to actually want to keep playing instead of just wanting to be done. You're going to install all three. Starting with levels. Mm-hmm. Right now, your life probably runs on one massive, vague goal at a time. Get the promotion, build a business, fix the relationship. That's not a level. That's a finish line wearing a different outfit. A level is smaller, specific, something you can actually complete in days or weeks, not years. Break the massive goal down until you can see the next level clearly. Not the whole staircase, just the next step. That's level one. Let's talk about tracking. This is the part you've never done, and it's the part that's been making everything feel hollow. Mhm. Every time you complete a level, every single time, no matter how small, you mark it. Yes. One loud, out loud if you can. Written down if you can't say it out loud. Something physical, something real. Not a mental note that evaporates in 10 seconds. An actual record that this happened, that you did, that it counts. Mhm. Here's why this matters more than it sounds like it should. Your nervous system doesn't register wins automatically. It needs a clear signal that says, this was a win, stop, let it register before moving on. Without that signal, everything just blurs into the next thing. With it, you start building the thing that's been missing this whole time. Actual evidence that you're winning. Yes, you need actual winning, actual evidence that you're winning. Let's talk about the third piece, the reason to keep playing. This is where most people get it backwards. They think the reason to keep playing is the next big finish line, the bigger goal, the next level up from where they are. But let me be clear, that's not it. The reason to keep playing is that playing itself, it starts to feel good once you're actually tracking wins. Once you can see it in real numbers, in real marks on a real list, that you're moving and winning and building, the game stops needing a finish line to be worth playing. It becomes worth playing because you can see yourself winning it. That's the whole shift. From a life that only feels good at the end, which never actually delivers, to a life that feels good in the plane, because the plane has a scoreboard now. Let's talk about what this requires of you starting today. Oh, yes, we're starting right now. Pick one thing you're currently working on. Break it into the smallest next level you can identify. Not the whole project, the next concrete move. Do that move. And then, this is the part you've never done. Actually mark it as a win. Say it out loud. Write it down. Tell someone. Do something that makes it real instead of letting it dissolve into the blur of just another day. That's it. That's right. That's it. That's the entire practice. Is starting today. Let's talk about what happens to the whole feeling once you start doing this. Because something happens to it. It doesn't disappear immediately. No, that's not what happens. The first few times you mark a win, it might still feel small, might still feel like it's not enough. That's the old pattern. It's still running, it's still expecting the spike, then empty cycle, because that's what you learned to expect. But something different, it starts happening underneath it. Yes, something different, it starts happening. Evidence, it starts accumulating, not feelings. Evidence, a real, visible, growing record that says, I am actually winning. Here's proof. Here's another piece of proof. And here's another one. And evidence does something feelings alone never could. It builds something solid. Oh, yes, it does. Let's talk about what happens to your energy once the scoreboard is actually running. The flatness that's been showing up on Sunday nights starts shifting. Yeah, it starts to shift. Not because the week ahead got easier. No, that never happens. Most of the time. It happens because you're not walking into it bracing for another Halloween. You're walking into it knowing you've got levels to hit and a scoreboard that's actually going to register it when you hit them. That's a completely different way to start a week. Let's talk about what kind of person this builds over time. Not someone who achieves more, someone who actually feels like they're winning because they finally built a structure that lets the win register instead of disappear. That person isn't chasing finish lines anymore. No, it is not. That person is playing a game they actually understand the rules of. Rules they build themselves on purpose instead of inheriting a broken structure and wondering why it never paid out. You know this is hitting right where it's supposed to. So think about your life a year from this decision. Not perfect, not every level hit cleanly, but actually tracked, actually counted. A real scoreboard with real wins on it. Instead of a blur of achievements that all dissolve the moment they happen. That scoreboard becomes its own kind of fuel. not motivation that has to be manufactured every morning. Evidence you can look at and know for a fact that you're someone who wins. Let's talk about what happens when you miss a level. Yeah, because sometimes you might miss a level. Yes, you will. So, set a level, work toward it, and some days you're just not going to hit it. That's not a hypothetical. That's part of playing any real game. And here's where most people break the whole system before it even gets started. They miss a level, feel the old hollow feeling showing up in a new outfit, and decide the scoreboard idea didn't work. Back to finish lines. Back to chasing without tracking. Back to pretending the system was the problem instead of one missed level inside a system that was actually working. Mhm. That's not what a miss level means. In a real game, missing a level doesn't erase the game. It doesn't even erase your progress. It just means this attempt didn't land. And you get another one. Think about how this actually works in games you've played before. You don't beat every level on the first try. Nobody does. You miss it, you see what happened, you adjust, and then you try again. Nobody quits the entire game over one missed level. But that's exactly what you've been doing with your actual life. Because without a scoreboard, every miss felt like proof the whole thing was broken instead of proof you were actually playing. Mhm. Here's the practice for when you miss one. You mark it the same way you mark a win, not as a failure that erases everything before it, as a level attempt that didn't land this time. Write it down the same way you write down a win. This level, this state didn't land. Here's what actually happened. That single move changes everything about what a miss means. It works. Because now it's not erasing your scoreboard, it's data on your scoreboard. Oh, yes, it is. Here's why that distinction matters more than it sounds like it should. The old pattern treated every mess as evidence you were failing at life. Oh, yes, it did, huh? The new structure treats every mess as evidence you're actually playing the game because only people in the game miss levels. People standing on the sidelines never miss anything because they never try, right? Think about what that reframe does to how hard a week actually feels. Instead of a hard week meaning you're falling hard, it means you're attempting things big enough to sometimes miss. That's not failure. No, it is not. That's the actual size of someone who's playing for real instead of playing it safe. Because you don't want to play it safe all the time. Let's talk about what to do right after a miss specifically. Not a spiral, not quit, not silently downgrade every future level so you never miss again, which is just finish line thinking wearing a disguise. You look at what actually happened, not what it means about you, what actually happened. Was the level too big for one attempt? Break it smaller. Did something outside your control get in the way? Know that and try again. Did you just not do the work? Be honest about that too. That's still just data, not a verdict. Then you set the next level. Could be the same one again, could be a smaller version of it. Doesn't matter which. It doesn't matter. What matters is the scoreboard keeps running, the game keeps going, the miss gets marked and filed. not used as the reason to walk away from the entire structure you finally built. Here's what here's what this actually requires of who you are now. Not someone who wins every level. Someone who keeps the scoreboard running even when it shows a loss. Because a scoreboard that only gets updated on good days isn't actually a scoreboard. No, it is not. It's just another version of the old Hall of Finish line, dressed up to look like progress. The real version tracks everything: the wins, the misses, the whole game, not just the highlight reel. Think about what that builds over a year. Yes, for the next 365 days. Not a perfect record, a real one. Wins and misses, both. All marked, all counted, all proof of someone who's actually in the game instead of someone standing outside it, hoping the next finish line finally feels different. That record is worth more than a perfect one would be. Because a perfect record could mean you never set a level hard enough to actually miss. And how many of you have done that? Probably a lot. A real record means you're playing for something that actually matters enough to risk missing it. If this episode names something you've been calling burnout or just not feeling satisfied, come back Friday, come back Monday, come back Wednesday. Hit that subscribe button because what we do here is help you see the structures running underneath your life that nobody ever taught you to question. The episodes you skip are the ones that will have shown you exactly where to look. Here's what's true about the whole of feeling. It was never telling you to want less. It was telling you that wanting things without a scoreboard will always end the same way. You're not ungrateful. You're not incapable of satisfaction. No, you're not. You're someone who's been playing a real game with no rules, no levels, and no way to track a single win. And somehow, still managed to win plenty of times anyway. Imagine what happens once you actually start counting. Yes, once you start counting the wins and misses both. Stop waiting for the next finish line to finally feel like something. Start marking what's actually happening today. Win or miss level by level. Because the life you actually want was never going to show up at some future finish line. It was always going to be built level by level, win by win, miss by miss, every single time you stop long enough to let one actually register. So set the levels, track the wins, mark the misses without quitting the game over them. Play like you actually want to win. Because you do want to win. And remember, the choice is yours.